My name's Kipp Bodnar, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at HubSpot. So at HubSpot, we are building the #1 CRM platform for scaling businesses. We help companies engage and build great customer relationships through marketing, sales, and customer success technology. The HubSpot office is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I have been in there approximately one time in the last 18 months. I split my time between Massachusetts and Vermont, and when the pandemic happened and remote working really took off, I took advantage to spend most of the pandemic up in Vermont. It's been amazing. Before HubSpot, I worked at a bunch of different marketing agencies, marketing service providers, helping people understand and business understand their marketing strategy and how to better reach their customers. The most challenging parts of my job as a marketer right now, one, are recruiting and finding great marketers. The second is to deal with the ever-changing technology landscape. Privacy changes. Google has a major privacy change that they're making over the next 18 months, for example. That changes the way you do email marketing, the way you do advertising. That has a big impact on the work we do every day. And at the same time, there's always one constant challenge, which is, can you do work that is in service of your customers instead of service of yourself? Because if you do selfish work, you get bad results. If you do work that's in service of your customers, you both win and you both get what you want. And I think that's kind of the constant challenge that anybody doing the work that I do kind of faces. I think if you're going to be a successful chief marketing officer today, you fundamentally need to be able to do a few things. You need to operate with your customer in mind. And I always say marketing is about two things. It's giving your customers what they want and what they don't yet know that they want. And so what they want are answers and education and help around the core problems that they know and face every day. What they don't know that they want are the trends, the data, the insights that are going to shape the future, right? And if you're going to be really successful in this role, I think you have to do both of those things. So that's how you build a really strong customer community long term and build a really vibrant business. For my team, I think the marketing team is often kind of the glue of the go-to-market, and we work really closely with sales, we work really closely with customer success, as well as the product team. When we think about sales specifically, our job is to translate our brand promise, the value proposition of our software, how we position our software and our CRM platform to the market. And that has to go from this one-to-many message to the hands of a salesperson who's going to have a very crafted, custom conversation with someone. And they need to understand how to take that positioning, that story, and make it fit and work for that individual customer or prospect so that the customer really understands the value proposition, what is in it for them, and if this is the right decision for them to make or not. Today, the world we live in is full of more marketing and sales noise than ever before because there's more and more companies trying to reach humanity and businesses than ever before. And to do that well is hard, because to do that well and to not make that noise, you have to put yourself in your prospective customer's shoes, understand what their problems uniquely are. And my principle around this is, how do you provide 10x the value that they could get anywhere else? How do you give them this exponential amount of value in their research, in their sales consultation, in any part of the customer experience that really sets you apart and helps you solve their problem? And what's happening with noise out in the world today, it's kind of doing the opposite. It is taking the lazy way out and hey, this is what we want you to know about us. This is why we're better. This is why we have the better mousetrap versus these other competition over here. It's often framed very heavily in the competition when most of the time people buying your product doesn't even know the competitive landscape, right? They're coming to you for the first time and being like, well, I know I need this thing. I have some awareness and trust of you, so that's why I want to talk to you. And so oftentimes people are introducing competitors in ways that they shouldn't be doing, and they are talking in language that is comfortable to them as experts of their market or their industry, but is not comfortable to their customers as somebody who has this clear and discrete job that they need help doing in the world. And if you want to avoid noise, you have to obsess about that job your customer's trying to do and make it easier and easier to do that for them. Attention has never been more scarce. The more noise that's out there in the world, the harder it is to stand out, to have real signal amongst that noise. But at the same time, if you can stand out and you can create value, you can build trust much faster because there's so much noise out there and so much trust distrust out in the world, that when somebody comes across a brand and a company and a business that is full of trust and has credibility and sees them for who they are and the problems they have, and that trust can be built so quickly. And we see that every day at HubSpot. People coming in, reading our blogs, taking our free courses, building their careers off of knowledge for free from us. And then it's like, oh, I've got a new role. And part of the reason I got this new role was from all this amazing free education that I received. If I need technology to help me in that new role, obviously I'm going to go to that brand that helped me get there and built trust with me when I wasn't looking for that technology. And that is, I think, the core opportunity today, is to help customers when they're not just looking to buy your product and service at that, one moment of their life cycle versus their entire journey in their career. Why don't people provide the help, the education, the customer-focused marketing in this world? Why isn't just that the world we live in? It's hard. It's much easier to buy ads and give people a bunch of money, right? It's much harder to do research, understand your customers' problems, take the time to build and craft really great knowledge and education, and make it really easy to deliver that, whether it be through video, through text, through a variety of formats, online or offline. And it's hard, and it takes time, and people are largely impatient. Noise is a byproduct of humanity's impatience. The challenge is, if you're going to build anything enduring, if you're going to build anything great, whether that be your own humanity, whether that be a business or anything in between, you have to be patient. It doesn't happen overnight. And you have to be giving and you have to be patient. If you're those two things, then we can fundamentally change and make the world a much less noisy place. And I think that's what we're trying to do, obviously, at HubSpot. And I know a lot of other companies around the world are trying to do the same thing. But there's still, a majority of folks who I think are taking, a less patient route. When it comes to competition, I think most companies obsess too much about the competition. And, our co-founder and executive chairman, Brian Halligan, always has a saying, watch your competition, but don't follow them. Like, be aware of them, understand what they're doing, but you don't need to follow and do everything. And when it comes to marketing, my point of view on that is, look, whoever establishes the rules of the playing field has the best chance of winning the game. So if you're going to your competition, you're playing by their rules, you've already put yourself at a disadvantage to be successful. And so what you fundamentally have to do is understand what your customers need and try to redefine that metaphorical playing field for what is best for your customers in this future world that you're trying to help them get to. And then put your competition in the position where they have to follow you versus the other way around. We're about 400 marketers around the globe. So for our global marketing team, we communicate in a few different ways. We communicate via email, we communicate via Slack, and then Zoom meetings. Those are really the vast majority of our conversation happens in those three platforms. At HubSpot, video conferencing is hugely important. On my marketing team, I run a distributed global team. Everybody's been working remote. We were heavily remote even before the pandemic, and then expanded and got far more remote even during the global pandemic. And so for that, my whole life is run on video conferencing and the way we tell stories to each other and collaborate together through virtual video. So for me, when I first check my phone in the morning, I'm an early riser. I like to wake up pretty early in the morning. I'm normally up by 6:30 most days. But I'll wake up and I'll try to take 10 to 15 minutes and just do a little meditation, relax. But then once I do, one of the first things I do when my feet hit the floor is grab my phone and understand, what do I have to do today? Remind me what my calendar is. Is there anything that has come through from maybe my team members on the other side of the world in different time zones that I need to understand or get involved with? And so I would say within 20 to 25 minutes of being awake, I'm deep into kind of engaging with those aspects of my phone. Do I get overwhelmed with my phone and technology? Yeah, it's fundamentally overwhelming, and it's a lot. I think there are some times where it's just, you need a break. I'm having this conversation right now, and I can't look at my phone, and it's amazing. It's like a break, right? It's incredible. And so I find myself needing to give myself breaks, and then also just needing to get outside, disconnect, have more quiet reflection, because I think sometimes when we get overwhelmed, we don't think well, we don't think clearly, and we don't think thoroughly. We make snap decisions that are not good for ourselves and for the people around us and for the people we work with. And so what I try to do is try to find the right balance of that access to information that can make my life so much better and easier on a day-to-day basis, while actually taking the time to process that information and get some real value out of it. When I think about noise in the world, I have a few filters. My first filter is, do I know and trust you or not? If I don't know or trust you, I have little to zero time for you, right? The only time I pick up the phone for somebody I don't know is if I am expecting a call from like a delivery person or something like that. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. Same with email and everything else. And so then if I know and trust you, then what I do is try to assign purposes for the way I engage on each channel. So like Slack, for example, online messaging at work, I look at that as like, if you just need to give me a quick heads up on something, or you need an urgent answer on something, Slack me. And otherwise, if I need any in-depth thought, I need that in email, right? So I know when I'm going to Slack, I have a few minutes, and a few minutes is good for Slack because this is just a quick response triage thing, right? Like I'm just like giving somebody a very quick answer, and it's not gonna require 15, 20, 60 minutes of thought. Whereas email, here's this big proposal that I need to review, strategy that I need to review. I need to actually sit and think with that, leave comments, put my thoughts together and respond. And I need a bigger chunk of my time to help manage and deal with that. The last commercial I remember watching and having seen. It's a tricky question because I'm a marketer, so I watch commercials for inspiration. So I'm going to take my marketer hat off and say, just like as a consumer, I don't watch a ton of television these days. I honestly don't have a ton of time for it. So the last commercial I probably remember is a Peloton commercial. It was probably around like the holiday season last year, and that whole campaign they were running. When I think about my normal day and people trying to quote unquote sell me something, either as the person who runs marketing at HubSpot or as just the individual that I am, I probably get 10 to 15 phone calls on a day unwanted, and I probably get 50, 100 emails a day unwanted. And I have to spend more time than I would like ignoring those or filing those away. When I think about the unsolicited outreach, is there good or potentially helpful unsolicited outreach out there? There probably is. I, as a consumer, have made a choice that if I'm going to give you my time, if I as a consumer, have made the acknowledgement that if I'm going to give you my time, I need to have some knowledge and trust with you. And because part of this noise in the world that we talk about is scamming and distrust and like bad actors doing things. So sometimes things can seem valuable on the surface, but lead to, untrustworthy events or kind of exchanges. And so even if it sounds great, if I don't have that initial bar of trust, it's very, very unlikely I'm going to engage. When I think about noise and trying to get that out of my life, I think about it through my most scarce resource, which is my time and attention. Like, is it worth my attention over here versus like me spending a moment with my son or cooking a meal with my son? The answer is almost always no, right? And we also know that the byproduct of that noise is feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's not enough signal and that you feel discombobulated or confused. That's at least how I feel. And so I also try to protect myself from those feelings as well. So when we think about what makes up a great day, I think everybody has a different determination of that. And for me, life is fundamentally about growth and getting better and improving. And there's a bunch of ways to do that. So for me, a really good day is a day where I've learned something, I've helped somebody else learn something, I have spent real time, attention, and focus on those problems and solving them, as well as with the people I love in my life. And wow, if I can do that, then it's hard to beat. That's a really, really good day. And the opposite of that, those bad days are when you feel distracted, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you're doing everything and nothing at the same time, and those are the days where you have to stop, reset, and think about how you use your time so you can have more good days and more learning days. So if I was in a room with anybody who had sent me some type of unwanted communication, the thing I would want to tell them is be helpful and meet me where I am. Like, I am sure the problem you are out to solve in the world is a good one and is a worthy one and hopefully is one that's even interesting to me. But for me to actually understand that and do that, I need you to, one, be where I am. I search for things on the internet. I use Google. I use social media. I participate in communities. Be there. And when you're there, be helpful. Understand my problems and figure out how you can help them. And if you can't help them, connect me with somebody you may know who can help and build that trust through being a partner in that way. A mistake that I see when it comes to like unwanted communication is just kind of laziness, People looking at, I just need to send 200 emails today. And they're not thinking about who those 200 people are, what those 200 people need. It's this misperception of, I need to have this quantity of activity to achieve this result I want. No, you need a certain number of people to engage with you to achieve the certain result that you want. And that may take 5 emails, or that may take 500, but you're more likely to save everybody time if you are thoughtful and you care about the humanity of the person and all the people that you're trying to engage with. At HubSpot and on the HubSpot marketing team, we think of our marketing as a flywheel, that all the marketing we do powers a great sales experience, that powers a great customer experience, that generates word of mouth in the market. And our customers become our best marketing engine because they have a great customer experience. And if you think of that kind of flywheel concept, there are 2 aspects to that. There's friction that can slow it down, and there's fuel that can make it go faster. And so we think about our metrics and our KPIs around that. Like, what are our kind of core friction-inducing metrics? So is our website load time really slow? Is our website inaccessible? Things like that makes it harder and harder to engage with us. And the flip side is, what can add velocity to that flywheel? What can help more and more customers come in? So how can we educate hundreds of thousands of people every month through HubSpot Academy to come in, learn how to do the best practices of marketing, sales, customer success, then use our software, then engage with our sales team and be vibrant members of the community. And so our core metrics are really around those 2 buckets of adding fuel to our flywheel as well as kind of removing friction from our flywheel. I think if you are going to be a human that's going to live harmoniously with technology, there's a few things that have to happen. And harmony normally comes from both sides of a process or of a relationship showing up in different ways, right? So that you can really fit together. And on the technology side, it's how do we innovate on the business models and the core infrastructure of that technology to provide privacy, to incentivize the right behaviors from humanity, I fundamentally believe. And on the people side, it is being intentional about our time. Like, why am I looking for entertainment? Am I looking for help, education, answers, whatever that may be? Why am I using this technology? I think we all found ourselves from time to time just like mindlessly scrolling some piece of technology in a way that's like not beneficial to really anybody. There are advertisers advertising or whatever. There's some business model that they're not really getting any value. The person using it's like not being intentional, not getting any value. And I think if we can do those things where technology can improve and the business models behind that technology can improve and people can be intentional with how they want to use it and how they want to disconnect from technology, I think technology is a very important part of our life. It doesn't need to be 100% of our life. I think for me, when I think about disconnecting from technology, it's I want to spend time with my son. I want to be outside. I want to understand how I can, maintain my physical health and mental health by being outside, hiking, golfing, skiing, whatever that may be, enjoying those activities that are just fundamentally going to help you reset your mind, and maybe if you felt a little overloaded or a little overwhelmed, help you get back to a good baseline. So I try to find this middle ground when I'm outside where I will take my phone with me, but it's like, we have a rec path here in town in Vermont where I am right now, and I'll always wear like a backpack with to carry water and everything, and I'll throw my phone in my backpack. So if we're riding our bikes and my son and I are on our bikes, it's like there's no phone, there's nothing happening, but if we need help or we're done riding bikes, we need to call in lunch because he's tired and I can't wait the 15 minutes while they make the lunch, so I need to call that ahead so that it's there when we pick up. I want to have, that's where technology can help me and make my life way better and way easier. And so I want to have access to that, but I want to have it in a way that's not like consuming my minute by minute interactions. I think when my phone buzzes or goes off like it has, gosh, I don't even know how many times since I've been sitting here talking to you, I feel different ways, sometimes, and it's often in the context of my life. Like if I'm waiting to hear from a friend or a colleague, then I'm excited. It's like, oh great, I get to talk to this person, that's amazing. If I am out enjoying time with my son, then it's like, oh no, is there somebody who's trying to get to me, and I have to then say, oh, I'm drawing boundaries in my life of like, this is a time where like, I'll get to that in an hour, right? Like this next hour or 2 hours or whatever, for the sake of this discussion, you kind of outline is what you have to do. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you don't feel like that little tinge of anxiety when that goes off, right? Because you're like, oh, man, there's somebody else out in the world who wants something of me. And I think one of the challenges with technology is it can make it too easy for us to give all of ourselves to other people versus like helping us, be with ourselves and do the things that we need and want. And so I think it's about finding that balance. So I think about working with a team and team dynamics. I've worked in like every modality you can imagine, like everybody in a small room when we were a startup, to everybody in an office, to some people in office, everybody in offices, but there's offices all over the world, to some people remote and some people in office. And I will tell you, it is less about the physical and digital divide of those experiences and more about the shared experience that we have. Like, I think today, fundamentally, the best way to work is a work environment that is majorly virtual with key physical touch points. Because, I lived a world where I worked in an office, but there were other people who didn't work in that office, and they felt like they weren't part of the discussion. They felt left out. And when you're virtual, everybody can kind of be part of that discussion, kind of agnostic other than time zone, in this really good and community building way. And then you can set core kind of tentpole moments where you can spend real concentrated time in person. And I think that's the opportunity, is like, even when you have a team who's all working in one office together, they all have meetings and they're all running all over the place. And is it like, are they really in person together? But if you have these virtual meetings where, people are saving time commuting and stuff on a day-to-day basis, but then can have really immersive physical check-ins where, oh, for these 2 days, we are all together and we have a clear agenda and we are focused on our time together and the problems we're going to solve together. I think that is a really helpful and valuable way to work. So when we're meeting virtually right now, we're largely meeting on Zoom. When you're dealing with team members across the globe, time zones start coming into factor, and access to information. It's like, oh, well, people in Singapore can't attend this meeting that the people in the East Coast of the United States can attend. So the people in the United States get to this information sooner, and that just feels unfair, and it again comes back to that feeling of left out, where things like asynchronous updates were like, I can record a 5-minute video, which would be the same 5-minute update I would have given in this meeting, but I can send that to everybody at the same time. And anybody can watch it whenever they have the time to watch it in the next 24 hours. That really levels the playing field and helps people feel included and as part of one team versus like a bunch of separate sub-teams. The value of having kind of a video or Zoom meeting is, one, to build some personal rapport in a way that you can't just through messaging or email. 2, to have a real-time discussion about a problem and solve problems in a collaborative way. I think they're less helpful when you're trying to do big mass-scale updates. They can work, and we do some of that, but I think meetings are best when they are smaller and highly engaged. When I think about my life and technology, technology's always been part of my life. I'm somebody who's always really enjoyed technology, and I'm an optimist, so I see all the positives that technology can bring to a person's life. But it's definitely, I think, become a bigger and bigger part of my life. And now I think we're at a point where it's about finding the right balance with technology. and you're really using technology to automate and do things that can really save you time. But then if you're going to save that time, don't go and spend that just on more and more technology. Spend that in building great relationships, doing meaningful work, solving meaningful problems. When I think about noise and I think about the future, I think technology can fundamentally makes our life better. Technology, software, connectivity is a great aspect of humanity. What does it look like in the future, I think, is going to be interesting. I think we're going to go through, like anything, cycles, and I think one of the things I would argue is we're getting close to the peak of noise and cycles, and part of this is like kind of we're getting to the end of the second generation of the internet and the peak of kind of centralized social networks and all of those things. As we get into the third generation of the internet, decentralized networks, more private social networks, private tokenized communities, all of those things that I think will happen over the next 3 to 10 years, I think that's going to be a great thing for humanity, because I think we're going to have the right balance and calibration of noise. And I think of it as noise is antithetical to community building. And I think humanity is best when we are building communities with each other, because those communities can solve problems, they can drive action, they can make progress. And so my hope is that as technology continues to advance, it helps us build more communities, and that those communities kind of self-organize and remove a lot of the noise out of the world. So I think an advice to kind of the next generation of marketers and business leaders in the world, the advice I would give them is customers are the currency of any business, and customers make any business possible. And if you are not in service to them and you are not doing marketing in service to your customers and you're instead doing it in service to yourself, you're not going to be successful. Your career is going to be limited. Your business growth is going to be limited. Your job as a marketer is to understand how to use technology to create more and more value for your customers and make your customers' lives easier. If you can do that, you will be endlessly successful. You will be part of really successful businesses that will transform your life and the life of everybody that you work with in really positive and meaningful ways. But more importantly, you'll be part of this amazing community that you have built through people who are trying to learn and solve the same set of problems. And that, I think, is really powerful. And instead of contributing to like more noise in the world, you'll be contributing to the building of the next generation of communities that are really going to power and move this world forward. When I was thinking about what I was going to do with my life and career, I was really unsure. I had a few things. I was like, well, I want it to be something that doesn't it's not limiting. Like you can make it whatever you want. And if you believe that you can accomplish it, you can accomplish it. And I didn't want some governing board to tell me if I was good enough at this thing to do it. I don't like rules. I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like a lot of that. And so for me, marketing became this obvious fit, because when I started my career, it was really kind of in between the first and second generation of the internet. And I saw the second generation coming, and I realized an opportunity that wow, this is going to fundamentally change marketing. And the only limiting factor is how fast you can learn. That's it. It's all new. Nobody has this big 20 years of institutional knowledge. It is how fast can you learn relative to everybody else. And I think of marketing as the ultimate meritocracy. If you can do it, the data and the feedback from the customers is always clear. You always know if you're good at it or not. And that kind of feedback loop and that type of meritocracy makes it an awesome way to spend my working time. I think a lot of people, when they think about marketing today versus marketing before, right? Oh, before it was just way less noisy. Wasn't it easier to reach people? Or today, wow, you've got all this technology and you can get information out to people really quickly. That has to be a real advantage. And I think there's a big debate around which one is better. And for me, it's not as simple as that choice. I believe when there is less noise in the world, it is easier to have really deep interactions. When there's more technology in the world, you can have a lot more frequency of interactions, but those interactions are not as deep. And that the companies and the marketers today who really win, who are really successful, find the right way to have both. To use technology to catalyze a relationship with a customer or a community, and then use storytelling, education to really deepen that interaction and build real long-term trust versus like a once kind of point in time transaction. I would say what's happened on my phone during our discussion is pretty representative of a normal day. It's not crazy, it's not, it's not light, it's what you would expect on a Tuesday. All right, just pulled one up. I got it approximately 40 minutes ago, this unwanted email. And the subject line is not great. It is, I'm trying to connect with Kipp at HubSpot. There's no context. I don't know why. We're on a first name basis already. That's very, very kind of you. And then the body of the email is this the correct email address for Kipp? That's the whole email. And I don't know what to do with that. There's no context. There's nothing. Not really valuable in any way. And so had I not been talking to you, I wouldn't have even gotten past the subject line to even know what the body of the email was saying. But that is a very representative, I'm sad to say, example of what I get on a daily basis. Sums up kind of the lazy and selfish interactions that I think a lot of people have when it comes to marketing and sales and outreach.